And you've kind of talked about creating an ease in caregiving, which might feel impossible for a lot of families. What do you think that actually looks like in real life?
I think it just means having support and being open to support. I think, I had hundreds of families come into the communities that I served feeling like they were entirely alone and that there was
Hmm.
nothing to help them. And granted, 40, 50, 60 years ago, that might have been the case.
Yeah.
But now, today, there's care management and case management. There are companies that exist like you all at Senior Home Companions to come in and take some of that heavy lift off. And I also think that families, especially adult children, only think that support means home health. And I think that's a big opportunity for education. Home care and home health are different. One of them is like that companion care, personal care, what you all provide at SHC. And then,
Yeah.
yes, you can work in tandem with home health care companies, right, to do some of the more medical lift, but it's not necessary. And so having somebody come in and help you with meal prep, help you with med management, help you with
Hmm.
some of those things that are draining your day to day,
Yeah.
let them. Like,
Yes.
let them
That's
help
such a
you.
good, just let them,
Just
like,
let them.
release the reins and let them.
Yeah. And I know that can be scary and hard. And it's, especially if it's your mom or your dad that took care of you for your whole life, you
Hmm.
feel like you owe it to them to be the one to do it. Or spouses made a commitment to be the one to do it. Times have changed, friends. Like people literally exist to take some of the burden off of you so that you can
Yeah.
be a good partner, husband, wife, daughter, son, aunt, or uncle. Like that's really what your loved one needs of you in this time,
Yes.
not for you to
Yeah.
be a qualified caregiver.
Yeah. And I think that that's so important for people to hear. Um, we have had so many phone conversations with family members, and people do come to us in an absolute crisis. They are emotionally drained, they are physically drained, and they are that primary caregiver, and they've taken on that role, and it's just they've hit their max.
And those
So I
people, more
just
often than not, are parents, working individuals. They do have
yes.
a partner or a spouse. Like they also have other things going on. And I think that's like a stigma or a perception that we really do need to break. Like it's up to us to break it, where
Hmm.
just because you're trying to be a good parent and be a good partner and be a good caregiver or child, you don't have
Hmm.
to, it's impossible to give 100% at all of those things.
Right.
You send your child to daycare, you go to work and have some time away from your spouse. Like the same thing
Yeah.
is true. You're not expected. And very rarely, even people in the medical space, very rarely are we trained to be a full-time caregiver for anybody other than ourselves.
Right. Right. Yes. And even, jumping into the walk of like being a new mom.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of the same scenario. You drop everything and you give your all, and
Yep.
then you do it all over again as your parents age, and you're still expected to take on these roles. So I just love, where the senior care space has evolved to, and I do think it's important to break that stigma.
Yeah. I'm really proud of it. I think, like I said, I started in 2012 and it's 2026. So I've really seen, like, obviously, people have had much longer careers in the space than I have, but even since then, seeing how
Yeah.
much has changed and evolved and what additional resources have popped up. And I think, something that was kind of difficult for me at the beginning of Care by Christie is I didn't see anybody else doing it. I saw geriatric care managers. I saw people that were qualified, I guess, to do
Hmm.
some of the things that I was like, who am I to be giving out
Right.
this information? And I'm like, well, Christy, you've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of families at this point. The common theme or the common thread is that people don't know what to do or where to begin.
Hmm.
If you could give them that information, would they have a better experience? Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes. You are more than qualified to give all the information.
I feel more confident about that in
Yeah.
my 35th year of life than I did back in
Yes.
my, maybe 21 to 25 age
Yeah.
range, but which was always so interesting to me, right? I started at the Stratford at 21 and my title was senior lifestyle advisor. And so these like, wonderful 70, 80, 90-year-old prospects were like, "Are you 15? Who are you
Oh,
to advise me on my senior lifestyle?" And that pushed me to become really educated and really
yes.
informed so that I could give them very neutral information, right? Our job in
Yeah.
senior living across the board is not to tell people what to do. It's to give them the information to make the best decision for themselves.
100%. I think that's very true. And I want to ask, if someone was at the very beginning of their caregiving journey, what are the first three things they should do?
That's a great question. I think the first is to find a support network. So that could be your church, it could be a senior center, it could be the community that you're looking at, it could be senior home companions and communities that are like that, that have support group settings, maybe disease specific support group settings. I was on the board for the Indiana Parkinson Foundation for many, many years, and we had virtual and in-person support groups that were great for people who were just getting started. Um,
Yeah.
just so that you don't feel alone and you can feel that sense of community. The other thing is obviously get the roadmap for elder care. But,
Uh,
even if you don't go that route, I think doing a little bit of research, but I say that with caution because again, just as you and I were talking before we started this conversation, I'm currently 35 weeks pregnant and I could go down a rabbit hole of information and miss a lot of what's actually going to be helpful for me, which is why I created the roadmap. Is again, it is not an end all be all by any means, but if it can kind of condense your learning process so that you can get to resources and support faster, that's the
yeah.
goal of it. Um, and then, yeah, find yourself an advocate. I think whether that is a geriatric care manager, because they're speaking the language of the healthcare side of the world and they can translate it into layman's terms,
Hmm.
massive benefit in that type of service and support. Um, Maybe it's an elder law attorney, maybe it's just some type of counsel to be
Hmm.
kind of a sounding board and a bridge for you. Don't feel like you should have to know all of the terminology and verbiage and laws and rules for everything. That's impossible. And I would encourage you not to spend or waste any time trying to get all of that knowledge. Use the resources that are available to you. They've done the hard work. They've spent a long time gathering the information. Use them.
I love that advice. And I think that those three takeaways are going to be huge for our audience who may just be beginning their caregiver journey. So I love that. Thank you.
Yes, I hope so.
And we have some rapid fire questions that will help a lot of families and hopefully a lot of our listeners. What is one thing that every family should do before a crisis happens?
Oh, I think having a conversation as a family to just be on the same page for when, if you have a declining loved one, cognitive health, etc., and you can foresee that happening, get on the same page. Whether that is,
Yeah,
a session where you're all on Zoom and you're hearing the same information. Again, I hate to see families break apart or have resentment or have negative feelings after a loved one has inevitably passed away, right?
yeah,
That could have been avoided if we just had some open lines of communication and don't expect to have to do that all on your own. I think having
yeah,
like I always say I care about you guys, I care about this dynamic. I don't actually have an emotional attachment to what happens. It doesn't
right.
affect my life if you go this route or this route or this route. It affects
Yeah,
yours. And so
yeah.
to be kind of like a third party observer that can
Hmm.
infuse guidance and information, get you somebody like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, I really like that. and extremely important before you hit that crisis mode. And then what is one myth about senior care you wish that people would stop believing?
Mm. I would kind of go back to what I said about the whole nursing home, that kind of concept. I think, still, as you've gathered, I'll talk to anybody about anything. And so I've been doing a
Yeah,
lot of traveling for work. And, when you tell somebody that you work in senior care, they're like, oh, a nursing home, or I would never send my loved one.
immediately.
Yeah, instantly. And so I challenge that. I'm kind of spicy anyways. And so I'm like, what do you think it looks like today? Have you seen a community or have you inquired about
Yeah.
any senior care services today because they look different than they did back then. Um, and I used to always say people either think it is staying at home until they pass away, alone with nothing, or a long, dark,
Mhm.
scary hallway where people are screaming for help and nothing in between. And in
I
fact,
think that's so true.
there's an entire alphabet worth of
Yes.
things to support aging adults. And so I
Yeah.
think really just staying open-minded and knowing that we are actively trying to shift the narrative and shift people's perception, that would probably be the biggest myth that I'm personally trying to myth bust out here. I'm like, guys, no, it's amazing. I would live there today.
Yes. No, I really agree with you on that myth. When I started at Senior Home Companions, I previously had not worked in the senior care industry,
Mm,
and immediately my mind went to nursing home. I was
yeah,
like, I don't know if I want to work at a nursing home. And that's just, I mean, the information that's out there, there truly is
yeah.
no in between until you may be in the season where you're looking at different
Hmm.
options for your aging loved one. You have no idea what is out there. Um, and that's our job to educate people of all the services. So I
Yeah.
just think it's so cool to
And
advocate
it's
for that.
it's not like no shade on anybody that thinks that because that
Yeah.
is how it was 30, 40 years ago, right?
Yes.
And so if you've not had to navigate it before, how would you know how to navigate it now?
Right.
And that's why the roadmap exists. That's why companies exist. That's why all of these like kind of boutique supplemental services exist.
Mhm.
And,
Yes.
I hear time and time again when people do kind of overcome that hurdle, they're like, I had no idea that there were
Oh,
all of
it's
these
like,
resources. Yeah, I'm like, we've just been waiting for you.
I know. And hopefully now, because it is 2026, that this information is much easier to find
Yeah,
than 40 years ago. So
correct.
we are hopeful.
Yes.
Um, and then, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received about caregiving?
Hmm. I think just meeting people where they are. Um, my primary experience with being a direct caregiver is in the dementia care space. And
Mhm.
so I heard a term once that really stuck with me called therapeutic fibbing. If your loved one or your client or whoever it is that you're supporting thinks, insert blank, that it's the sky is purple and we're going on an adventure to wherever. Like, just meet them where they are. If it's not
Mhm.
harming anybody, if it's not disturbing anything, like, just meet them where they are and go along
Yeah.
with it. I used to love when I opened that Anson building, we had a memory care neighborhood. I would
Mhm.
love to go back there. Tell me the same story 4 times. Tell me the same thing over and over and over again because clearly they want to share that and they want to
Yeah.
express that. I think when we shut those things down, we shut down the communication lines, and then you feel like, oh, well, they just can't communicate with me. They can. You just have to shift once again what you think that looks like and how you have perceived that in the past.
Yeah. And I really do love that phrase, meeting them where they are. And that's something that we also strive to do at Story Cottage.
Yeah.
Obviously, boutique memory care space. And, I love going in there and meeting residents and hearing their stories. But yes, most importantly, meeting them where they are, what they want to talk about, the stories that they want to share. So
Yeah.
great advice there.